Let's face it, even the most diehard AEW fans at this point have to admit that AEW's been struggling. They've been struggling in the ratings, they've been struggling in the live events, they've been struggling to put an entertaining product on their television. But what do you do about it? Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got an idea. If you're Tony Khan, the way to fix it is just to hire more great stars. If we could just have all of the big, high-budget talent on our rosters, then everybody will love our product. If we can just put all the best dream matches on TV, then the people will come to the product. Or if you're like many other internet fans and trolls, maybe Tony Khan just needs to go away for a while, a long while, like never come back. But listening to the Cornette experience or the drive-thru, I'm not sure which one, we'll check it in the clip. Brian Last raised a very unique premise that I honestly hadn't even thought about, but it was something that WCW did, and it kind of pretty much killed WCW. But what if, hear me out, what if Brian Last suggests AEW does a reboot?
You know, I never thought it was a great idea, ever. The idea of a reboot, like WCW tried it a few times when they were alive, and then when Bischoff was originally going to buy them, they were going to, shut down and a reboot. I never believed in that, because I think it does damage you can't repair from, you can't come back from. With that said, it feels like, and I'm not saying they should, but it feels like AEW needs a reboot. It just all feels lost at sea.
The drive-thru. It was on the drive-thru. So it's an interesting concept. So let's toy around with it a little bit. I actually haven't given it much mental thought, but I knew as soon as I heard it that was an interesting concept to kind of break down and evaluate. So what could that look like? And how could that benefit AEW, or would it just kill AEW dead? So I think if you did like a full reboot like WCW did, where everybody came down and they forfeited all their titles, and Vince Russo, and I think wasn't Eric Bischoff there with them too, or they did the announcement that it was going to be a reboot, right down to stripping all the titles and, redoing the graphics and all of that stuff, a new pay-per-view name. But that was pretty much it. That was the final coffin nail in WCW. Maybe not the final. Vince buying the company was the final, but one of the final nails in the coffin of WCW. I don't think that would work in that way for AEW, but what if they did like a soft reboot? Like movie fans nowadays will be familiar with the requel, the reboot sequel, where we kind of want to reboot this franchise and give it new life, but we don't want to just say that everything else that happened in this entire franchise didn't happen. We want to pay homage and acknowledge the past, but we want to move forward in a new direction. I think this could be accomplished by Tony Khan announcing that he is stepping aside as booker. That's it. You don't need to say we're doing a reboot. That in itself would indicate that this company is going in a new direction. Now, whoever that booker is, you got to do a couple things with them. You have to give them time to really get their feet wet. It can't be a thing where, oh, you're not improving the ratings after 3 months, 4 months, you're fired. You got to give this guy a good year to really get shit going. Remember, Triple H was criticized when he initially took over from Vince McMahon, he had a couple good things, and then he was like, people were like, I don't know about that. And it's like, just give it time. He's still got to work through all of Vince's old storylines that he had already put into place and that sort of thing. Give whoever you put back in charge of AEW enough time to really do something with it, and then evaluate after a year and 6 months or whatever. Then take a look at, do we need another new booker? Where are we at with this thing? And this is not anything new. This has been done since the beginning of pro wrestling, man. Not everybody, even in the territory days, they switched bookers. Famously, Memphis territory. Jerry Lawler and Jerry Jarrett would take turns because they would get burnt out. You know, you do a year or 6 months or whatever, and then I'll take over for a little bit. Even Vince McMahon was never the head of his own creative. He was the decider. And if he had an idea, obviously it would go, but he had people around him, and those people rotated. They were not the same people from beginning to end. And, you know, maybe it got more convoluted towards the end with all the bazillions of writers on staff and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, back to the earliest days of just booking with Pat Patterson and Jim Cornette and Jim Ross and Bruce Pritchard and whoever else, you know, at that time, that was all you needed. Tony Khan needs a new direction. I would pass the pencil offhand. I would say Jeff Jarrett's a good choice right now. Just simply because he has the experience. Just put him in as the head of creative, build a creative team around you. I've said this before, even if it's not Jeff, put Jeff on your creative team. I'm not saying that Jeff is the biggest creative genius. We all remember those King of the Mountain days and TNA where Jeff Jarrett was, what, a 37-time NWA champion because he just kept always winning and being in the main events and on top. I got an idea. How about you give me the belt and I beat everybody? Genius. Book it. So we want to avoid that, but he also has the experience. He's been around, not just his own time in the business, not just his own time as a wrestler and being booked in all of the major companies, but being a booker and a promoter, but growing up under his father. You know, you always hear people talk about sitting under the learning tree of some kind of booker. At least Jeff Jarrett would have that. And then Tony could sit under the learning tree of Jeff by letting Jeff run the shit for a little while. Tony can sit at the head of the table. He can say no, yes, take that and add that to that, tweak this just a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that, but he doesn't need to be the guy fucking scribbling out all his shit in his notebook while he's supposed to be watching his football game. That's the problem. Tony's the problem. Tony needs to go. So a full reboot of the entire company would kill the company. People would be like, all right, I'm done. That's it. But if you could just do a soft reboot, a requel, a switch of directions, a new direction without completely wiping everything you already have in place. Just put somebody new in. Look what recently, since Vince has been gone, right? Look at this year, 2 years of what Triple H has done. Right up until the new production guy. He's getting rave reviews. Whoever is in charge of production right now, all the shit that they've been doing, the backstage stuff and just the angles and just different ways of looking at it, right up to this Bray Wyatt, or not Bray Wyatt, the Wyatt 6 debut. How fucking amazing was that? There's a bunch of little things that they're just doing great. And it's because they have a new vision. There's a new person in charge, both booking and on the camera side. You know, for all the people that AEW supposedly brought in, you know, they got Mike Mansouri as their new production guy who was supposedly being groomed to be the guy that took over for Kevin Dunn after, you know, he left WWE, but it was never to be the case. Mike Mansouri hasn't done a goddamn thing of interest with AEW at all. I don't give a shit. You know, I heard him do an interview with Chris Jericho, and he talks a big game. He's like, oh, you know, you want to make sure that, you know, your through lines and you're telling the story throughout the blah, blah, blah. Your show sucks. All he did was bring over the video screens that Kevin Dunn put into place. I got a good production idea. Why don't we put all the fucking video screens on the barricades and on the ring side? Just like WWE does. And guess what? I don't like it on WWE's either. Their whole fucking ring area is a giant video screen. I don't like that. It's too much. It makes it look too overproduced. But, you know, the WWE's been doing a lot better with their production style, and AEW is just a step behind. The production has done nothing. He brought in that writer chick that used to work for WWE as well. Oh, we're bringing in this new head creative chick or whatever. Have you seen anything? You know, apparently she's very, you know, the head bitch in charge behind Mercedes Moné and her promos and her angles and stuff like that. All that sucks. None of it has been good. It's all been very WWE-esque. Nobody that Tony's brought in has done shit. All he's doing is bringing people in from the old WWE regime and making it look more like WWE while Tony still books all his fucking jerk-off matches. And I do see that they're trying to do a little bit better with the storylines that they're telling and that sort of thing. But I don't know. There's some questionable shit still. Jericho. Why is Will Ospreay getting a title shot now instead of at Wembley? Hopefully they got a good idea for that. But even if, we get to that point in Wembley, it's going to be a rematch. It should be the first match. Ospreay should have never won the fucking Continental All-Atlantic Gimmick Schnavitz Championship either from Roddy Strong. He should have lost that, quite frankly. Had to work his way back up and earn a world title shot. Make him work for it. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but, on TV, really build that, hey, this guy is the top contender going in to Wembley Stadium. It's clear. He's beaten everybody. He's got big win after big win. But he didn't win some fucking mid-card championship, and he didn't already face Swerve Strickland before. I don't know. It's a whole side tangent. There's lots of other. The Jericho shit, like I said, is rough. The Young Bucks, I'm still not digging anything that they're doing. I think they kill. Anytime they're on screen, they kill whatever they got going on, and them trying to work with Swerve now is just going to kill Swerve worse. Handed them their stupid fucking shoes. They got to go a whole new direction. They got to get somebody behind the pencil that has experience, that has respect. There needs to be a team around them, not just one guy deciding everything in his notebook that day, what he wants to do, but a team of people sitting around the table going, what if we did this? What if we did that? I don't like that. That doesn't sound good. Well, I do like that. Fuck you. Boom, boom, boom. Punch it out. Guy laying on the floor loses. Guy standing over him. His idea wins. Whatever the fuck you want to do. I'm just saying, whatever they're doing now isn't working. So a soft reboot would do them wonders. They could do it, great. They always like to update the look and presentation, a new logo or video package or theme song for the Dynamite shows, that sort of thing. I don't know if you wait till then. You want to do it as soon as possible, in my opinion. But do something like that. Just you don't even got to change the look of the show. Just put a new guy in charge. Announce that you're putting a new guy in charge, or leak it to Meltzer. At the very least, get the word out there that Tony has stepped down. But, it would not hurt Tony to just come out and say it publicly. I've spent 5 years as the head of creative for this company. I wanted to personally oversee it so that it was launched with my vision into our TV deal. But now that we have secured the foundations for AEW, I think now is a great time for me to switch focus and put in somebody new into the creative position moving forward. He could say it at a press conference, a media scrum, a conference call. He could tweet it. He could leak it to Dave Meltzer. I don't care. People would love it. People would love it, and they would be willing to tune in and give AEW another chance. People that are lapsed would go, okay, well, let's see what this new direction for AEW has in store. But you got to give it time, too. You can't just watch the first episode and go, ugh, because they can't just wipe all the storylines clean again. That would kill it. That's what WCW did. You don't want to do that. So you got to give them a little time to get out of whatever shit that they're in now and allow this new guy to work his magic. Give it a few months to a year. But that's what you got to do. I think Brian Last was right. I think he's onto something. Again, not the full reboot. I think that's a bad look. But if you can do it soft, make it look like pretty much nothing's changing, but also at the same time make it very well known that the head of your creative is different now, and really start to show that on screen as much as you can going forward, I think you can win back some of the good faith from some of the lapsed fans. If nothing else, you can get it back up to 800, 900,000 on a good episode. I think 1 million's hard to obtain for AEW right now. I think that's their high watermark, right? 1.1, 1.2, something like that, right? I don't know that they'll ever get there again, but they can certainly get goddamn close instead of getting closer and closer to the fucking... They're damn near at 500,000 at this point. You could say NBA playoffs or whatever, but I mean, they're having a rough time. Some of their segments, I think they got down to 608,000 viewers for one of the segments. Not good. Not good. Change. Time for a change. That video there was a real slobber knocker. Head on down to the comments, put a little barbecue sauce on the like button. And while you're there, I would subscribe so you don't miss any other videos. And leave a comment. Everybody's got a fucking comment.